film like this?
It was great. It was the first sort of really gory horror film that I've been a part of, and this is my third time working as director with Denise Gilstrap. So, I mean, I was on board right from the beginning because I love working with her, and then I read the script and I thought, oh, this is very unlike anything I've gotten to do. And I really wanted to go to South Africa, so yeah, it was great. Yeah. See you later.
Was there any talk of including music? The Banana Split songs?
Yes, yeah, definitely. Everybody was singing that Tra-La-La song all the time. It was in my head for a moment. So I know that was definitely layered in from the beginning. And it's used in a very specific way too. That's kind of a cool story point. So I won't say more about that. But yeah, I know that they had that in mind, which is helpful when it's just Warner Brothers and they're like, we own it all. So here it is. Yeah.
I know there's a version of the song by the Dickies, punk band. Was it the original version of the music, or did they use the
I'm not sure. I don't want to speak out of turn because I know that there is an updated version of it as well. I'm not sure if they also used. They probably did actually. I don't know. I'm not the right person to answer that. Yeah. I wasn't the music supervisor, although I do think that's a great job.
In terms of your experience with horror, you haven't done horror before, but off camera, what's your experience with horror and the genre and how do you feel about it?
I love horror films. I'm really terrified watching them. And I love going to horror films and then I sit my butt down in the theater and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing because then I watch like half of it like this but I love that. I'm interested in, I write as well and I've started directing a little bit and I would love to make it great. Like I'm more, I would say, in the realm of psychological kind of creeping, I'm not so much a jump surprise type person when it comes to what I would want to make, but I would want to make a great horror film that just kind of gets under their skin.
So how did the experience of working on Banana Splits help you in terms of getting over the horror? Did it desensitize you? And also, did it inspire you in ways to create something you want to?
Absolutely, yeah. I want to say that, but I've been doing film and television for 12 years now, and whenever I go see a scary film, I go, this isn't real. The tricks of the trade, but it still scares me. I think as an actor, you have to have such a belief in storytelling, and that it's a compliment to the filmmakers, really, but it's also just who I am. I just am so completely invested that it just scares me that much that I can't see past the industry stuff of like, this is a crew that's doing this. This is all, none of this blood is real. She's not, like that end of Hereditary. I couldn't watch the end of Hereditary. It's a great film and I just was too scared to watch it. I know she's not really doing to herself what she's doing to herself. Spoiler. Yeah.
And how long did it take to get all that fake blood out?
A long time. I'm sure you know the shaving cream. For that stage blood stains, and they often give us shaving cream because that will lift the stains from your skin. So you just have like a quick shaving cream shower.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and it often, in this movie I had to work in a lot of slime. So that was its own beast. Blood and slime. In the, have you seen it? In the hospital course. It's all slime.
Oh, the bit of the hospital. Yeah.
It's all that weird stuff you get at kids' stores, that like powdery stuff that you add water and it turns into.
Oh yeah, that was yeah. There was broken bones involved. Yeah, that was fucking great.
Yeah. No, that's okay. Good. That's the reaction we want to elicit. It was great. That's exactly right.
So they say don't work with animals.
Right.
What's it like working with Banana Splits?
Yeah, I mean, they're slightly easier to control when they're not murdering people. The guys they're dancers, the people in those mascot costumes, and they were amazing. And I mean, we were shooting in South Africa. It was so hot, and they were such great sports. I loved when they'd walk around with the heads off because it was the funniest thing, like these giant bodies and a tiny head. Yeah, they were really sweet and wonderful to work with. So, when they're not murdering people, it's sweet. Yeah.
Did you keep anything from set?
I kept some, I mean, not to be a total Hallmark card, but I have some really great relationships from working on that movie. Like, I know it's super lame, but, like, people will be like, oh, I kept some great friends. But seriously, it was such a fun movie. We spent, like, all of our time together. We went on safari together, and, yeah, it was really fun.
How long of a shoot was this film?
About a month. I think a little over a month. Yeah. So I had a lot of free time, which was amazing.
And you're in, like you said, Cape Town, South Africa, filming this movie.
Yeah.
You're not even at home.
Yeah. It was really, it was a great time. Really great time.
I thought it was interesting as well that the turn of some of the characters, because Harley's the
kid.
So his characterization is his depiction actually where Scully was something Danishka was saying that she wanted to represent children, the modern day child, but also the fact that the lead, the characterization of your character also has this complete journey as well. It's quite interesting for a horror film to have such a nice turn to
I mean, that's very important to Danishka, and it's a credit to our writers too, sitting over there, that she definitely spoke to each of us about our character journeys, but there was also a pretty cool, I don't want to spoil the movie for anyone who hasn't seen it, but she had a pretty great question, because I was thinking about, who dies and who lives and why, because there are a lot of horror films where it's like, oh, of course, the girl who's maybe sleeping around a little bit is going to die first, and, the jock dies, and the whatever, like, that's sort of an old model of archetype stuff in terms of who dies in horror films, and she had a great question that she put forward, and she said, I'm looking at these characters and saying, who is living authentically and who isn't? And I was like, oh, that's a fantastic way of looking at it, because I was really trying to determine that for myself as the character, like, who's dying and who isn't, and who and why, and I just thought that was a really interesting way to have everyone look at their parts too. Yeah.
It is refreshing.
Yeah.
And I say that as a horror fan.
Oh, good. Yeah.
There are moments that even I was coming up away going, oh, jeez.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, quite strong word.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks, you guys.
One of them doesn't have a voice.
Snorky. He laughs though, doesn't he? I just learned that at the other table.
You have a horn.
Yeah.
Now they tell you.
Yeah. Stop the movie. Yeah. I'll do the laughs live tonight.
Add it in as an extra comment. I mean, so you were talking on the panel. It was fascinating about your appreciation of the original voice talent. So was that quite daunting for you to try and emulate something? I know you've done it before.
Especially, like the more notable voices like Paul Mitchell, like we had discussed on the panel, is the original voice of Tigger. That's like such an iconic sounding voice. It's like, I don't know how they did it back in the day, like Mel Blanc voicing all the Looney Tunes characters. He must have been in a 3-piece suit, smoking indoors, no air conditioning, asbestos in the ceiling, drinking whiskey, and like knocking these voices out of his.
Don't you do that?
I should start. I should probably start. No, but I mean, again, I couldn't imagine what it was like back in the day. I mean, we get air conditioning and bottled waters and these fancy throat lozenges. But yeah, Paul Winchell was like human bagpipes. He would always push air out of his body. You know, it's stamped with.
How did you discover that you?
It was usually during the morning announcements at elementary school, where I'd get to imitate teachers or make fun of people. I think as kids we all kind of like make voices and pretend to be characters. But it wasn't until like later on that I knew I had this weird ability to imitate people. Yeah.
So then, did you have to go back and watch original Banana Splits productions, or did you?
Absolutely. They didn't want to veer too far from the originals, and if anything, the only thing that they changed was how fast or how slow they said things. Because you could say something like "We're gonna have fun," and it sounds friendly. But if you say like "We're gonna have fun," like that's obviously creepy, and it's not fun. But yeah, it's like that's the most that we kind of toyed with it. But it was interesting to say the least.
So were you on set at all, or did you just do everything post?
I was not on set. They filmed everything in South Africa. I was in the South Africa of California, Burbank, California. No, I don't know. I recorded all of my stuff over at Out Loud Audio.
How long did it take you to get through all of your audio?
Oh my gosh, that's a very interesting question. It was kind of like sometimes audio, like in the movie Space Jam, for instance, is a last minute thought because they filmed the original movie with other actors on set. So the actual voices were added later, and I feel like we were in a bit of a time crunch. But I was able to get through 48 lines of dialogue, 4 different characters, in less than 2 hours. So I earned this cuff. This is actually what they paid me. They're like, here is your paycheck. Don't spend it all in one plate. Thanks, Warner Brothers. But yeah, it was a bit of a task, but I was up to the challenge.
So when they filmed, did they have the actors actually speak lines and then they dubbed you over them?
I think they did. Either they had a script reader there on set, or the actors inside the costumes would give the line deliveries. Yeah, but there was enough space for me to play around with the script, ad-lib. There was a very crazy fight scene that happens in this movie, and I got to do all the efforts for that.
So are there any other childhood characters that you would like to voice as murderous?
I don't know. I made a joke earlier. I was like, why don't we do a kid's version of Freddy Krueger and Leatherface and really flip it on its head?
Yeah.
Like Freddy Krueger's Neighborhood, have kids come over. No, that'd be awful. I don't know, man. I think this is the perfect, the be-all, end-all is Banana Splits, because there's something weird about costume characters. They're always smiling. You can never really see their eyes, or if you can't see their eyes, they're pretty soulless. So
would demonic Winnie the Pooh for you, like Winnie the Pooh or something?
That would be nuts. I think we gotta pitch that to Warner.
Yeah, let's do it.
Or at least Gary. Gary will take a pitch. But yeah, are you guys having a good con?
No.
Same old. No. Always the best dressed, by the way.
Yeah, so you did voice acting for a lot of other stuff. I think I've seen you in a few of the press rooms when I was doing the DC show, their animated stuff. So when you're doing an animated character, they give you a storyboard for what the character's going to be doing when you're doing the recording. So what was the process like? Did you have the full movie done in front of you and you were just doing ADR? How did that work?
For the most part, all the scenes that required the voice was already there, and it was pretty much the closest without sound effects. Some of the scenes did have music, but essentially the picture, all the information that I needed to deliver a proper voice for the character was there. So I still haven't seen the movie yet. in its entirety, and I'm about to watch it tonight with like apparently a sold out audience. So at the Horton Grange. So I can try to get you guys tickets, but I don't know. It's 10 to midnight. I'm sure you guys would rather be sleeping. If not, I'll send you guys DVDs.
How come you haven't seen it?
I'm scared of soiling myself. No, I'm just kidding. Just because they did send me a link to try to get prepped for press, but I just haven't had enough time to see the movie in its entirety. I was kind of secretly waiting for to watch it tonight.
Yeah, it would be nice to watch it with the atmosphere, and particularly given the response it's had online from people about killing their childhood.
Morbid curiosity. I think people are just going to want to see this film.
Yeah.
I mean, why not?
I mean, it's a great film, regardless of anything else, regardless of what it was.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the thing too. It's like it's not trying to be campy or funny. It's just a straight movie, like a straight up horror film. And I think the comedy is going to come from the absurdity of these costume characters, man. I swear.
Are you going to push for more lines in the future?
I hope so. Definitely some snorky lines. You should just have an inner monologue the whole time. Your voice would be good as Snorky, inner monologue.
Turn into a strange avant-garde inner working.
Yes.
Yeah, like Henry. That was the Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Yes,
that would be good.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
Snorky, Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Oh man, the sequel should just be about you doing the lines and then becoming a serial killer yourself. So meta. Let's pitch it. We got all these good ideas.
Eating itself.
Oh, that is a huge lie. Yeah. That's a terrible thing to say.
Hey, so while we're starting, just real quick, first and last name and position on the production, clearly so that the transcriber can differentiate the voices.
This is Jed Elenoff. I'm one of the writers of the Banana Splits movie.
This is Scott Thomas, and I'm the other writer of the Banana Splits movie.
Perfect, thank you.
We're very easy to differentiate. Scott's baritone is hard not to fall in love with. So good luck to all of you not doing it.
So, what made you guys decide to write a Five Nights at Freddy's movie?
Oh, had to happen. Finally, somebody brings it up. It's not a Five Nights at Freddy's.
Well, no, I actually got a more serious question. Is that we have like a certain kind of cultural zeitgeist right now, where people that grew up with this kind of cutesy animatronic age are now aging into adulthood, and they want to be able to share their love for horror, but also this bridge into the world of kids. I mean, Critters is very similar. That's the movie that we found as kids. So tell me a little bit about that, about bridging that gap for the modern age.
I will say this sort of the inspiration from this, Blue Ribbon Content, the production company behind this, they called us up and they said, hey, we have this IP, we have the Banana Splits, we want to do it as a horror movie. And we just immediately went, that makes total sense, because if you take these kids' characters and you change the soundtrack to, the theme from Halloween, it immediately becomes creepy. So we knew exactly what we wanted to do with it. We really did think a lot about, we knew that the Banana Splits were basically going to have a moment where they were going to snap, they were going to become murderers. We thought about, what's in that suit? Is it some sort of evil spirit? Is it the actual guys who play this that have just gone crazy? And we wanted it to focus more on the characters and on the kids, sort of, who come to see this show, and the families that come to see the show, rather than a group of maniacs or, And so what we ended up drawing inspiration from was actually the original Westworld movie. We just kept thinking of that all those shots of like Yul Brynner walking down those hallways as this sort of robot that was built for pleasure and for fun and for to have fun and do something good. And just went crazy. And so we just kind of had that in our head, and we went, what if the original Westworld movie met Yo Gabba Gabba? What would that be? And so we really, that's why we really set this movie in the world of kids' TV.
And I think, speaking to what you were asking about, this is 100% the kind of movie that you should discover as a kid. I mean, it's not for kids, it's rated R, but it's exactly the kind of thing that you get into before you, on a honestly, other than gore, there's nothing objective. I think that it's the kind of thing you discover, you watch, it feels a little bit more dangerous than it should, and it's exactly like those kind of movies you're talking about. I mean, it's it's gory. Mentioning. So yeah, that's a great thing to be able to do. It's a really fun thing to be able to do.
I have a question about the process. I mean, most movies they have like one reigning screenwriter, but when you're working in a partnership, how does it go when you're throwing ideas back and forth from the two?
Well, I mean, Jed and I have been writing together for over 15 years. We have actually done a lot of work in kids TV. We run 4 kids shows for Disney Channel, for Netflix. So we're very familiar with this world. And the way we work is we just talk it out loud. We knock this idea around. We talk the dialogue out loud.
It's really annoying to listen to if you're not in the room with us. I mean, if you just hear it through a wall. It's 2 of us talking back and forth, and nobody gets their feeling. It's just he says a thing, I say a thing. We just banter back and forth, and nobody gets their feelings. It's been so long. We don't get our feelings hurt. We do this all day long.
But it also helps because we're challenging each other as we go. So we always sort of challenge each other's ideas, and in that way, we feel like we're just the end product is even stronger because we've been sort of pressure testing the whole thing as it goes.
But it's a lot of very quiet arguments. I think we should do that. We should do this. I think we should try this. Maybe we try that thing I said a few more times, and then eventually
roll a desk over.
One of us gives in and puts it in.
That's right.
Knowing that you used to work on kids shows makes this movie so much darker.
Oh, it's so dark.
4 different kids shows, and now you will see.
Yeah, it's so dark. There's so much of this that like every person in this is from something. Every person in this is real, and the worse their death, the more we hated them because the worse they were to us. So everybody in here's got something.
It's like, because kids TV is really fun to work in, and it's obviously I have kids. It's really fun to make shows that they can watch and enjoy. But it's a business, and with any business, especially and these are adults running this business, and a lot of them, some of them are very insecure and take that out on other people, and so we we kind of took some of those less ideal moments from our experiences and sort of channeled them into this, and went, okay, what if we had some of those jerks in this movie, and then these robots decided to kill them?
So I guess we're saying that Banana Splits movie is a deeply personal.
Yeah, you guys are breaking the story on people in Hollywood sometimes being insecure assholes.
That's right.
Right?
See?
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
Never
you heard it here
Yeah.
for exclusive.
The movie lends itself to a continuation. So how do you think? I mean, do you set it up that way, or do you think is there intention for it to carry on?
I mean, I think always, everybody wants another job, right? But I think, we definitely wanted to leave a door open. I don't think we expected the response that it's getting, which is amazing. I mean, the love, the hate, it's been incredible.
I do think that we set it up. There are some things that happen with certain characters in the movie, and even with some of the banana splits that sort of allow us to then, if we were to do another one, I think really even make the relationships even more complicated. And there is some redemption in it. I mean, I don't want to spoil anything, but it is there's. The splits were bad. They were good and then bad, and that doesn't mean that they, can't be pulled back. So I think that a sequel would be really fun to sort of the fight for the soul of the banana splits, to get them
If
back.
you want to tell Peter that'd be great.
Yeah.
Like, if you guys want to mention that'd be awesome.
I would like to see how Harley deals with it because he's so obsessed with banana splits, and I get that as a fan of, as a genre fan.
Sure.
I understand that, and to have that love broken, to see how he would cope with that would be, and then obviously have to face them again, would be fascinating.
It would actually. You're right. I mean, that's I hadn't really thought about it that way because it always felt more like a forced maturation for him in a lot of ways. To like kind of watch your heroes die is this horrible thing, but you come out the other side. I mean, heartbreak is part of getting older, and I think that's how I always saw it. But I certainly never thought of it that way, and I think that would be great to kind of deal with the aftermath of watching your heroes turn on you.
where does he go? Because that's obviously just such a big part of his life. What does he have left?
Well, and it's sort of the end of your childhood when you realize that these things that are supposed to sort of, that the world isn't all good, and that even the things that are supposed to be safe aren't. So I think that if we met him in a sequel, he would be, sort of a more cynical kid. Another movie that we kind of pulled inspiration from was the original Child's Play, and it's the same thing. It's this, he gets this doll that's supposed to be this loving, amazing thing, and it starts trying to kill his family and stick a serial killer's soul in his body. So I think that what happens to that kid? It's you would definitely become much more cynical.
Is there another franchise that you'd like to take in turn?
There's another property they have that I won't mention here, but it's actually not a horror thing. It's a really sweet sort of coming of age friendship story.
And it's totally unexpected. The franchise, if we told you what it was, we can't. I wish we could. We can't. If we did, you would be like, what?